G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Now if you love today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user Mr. Rockwood. Titled, Am I the a-hole for screaming at my best friend's boyfriend? This happened today. Still catching flack. My partner and I have this friend, Lisa. We met at a ballroom, and she's good people. She met this guy, we'll call him Ted, last year, a few months before the pandemic, and hit it off. I remember being really happy for her because she was pretty lonely and had been looking to date for a while. She seemed really happy with him, and he seemed pretty nice, or so I thought. Small bit of context, they decided to get 2 puppies. I forget the other breed, but the one about this story is a mini Aussie/English mix named Belle. Anyway, I get a phone call today at around 4-ish from her, and she's in tears. She starts telling me about how Ted is taking Belle to the pound. She goes on about how they're having a fight about the puppies, and how active they are, and how stressful it is to take care of them. Apparently, it's causing him too much anxiety, so he's going to get rid of his puppy. Lisa isn't having any of it, and offers to buy her from him. He says no, and they get into a huge fight. Lisa starts begging me to take her while they figure this out. My ass is already in the car and en route. I arrive and she's outside with the puppy, her face red from crying, sitting on the curb. She gives me a hug and starts crying again, all the while holding the clearly excited to be outside Belle. Ted comes walking outside, sees us and goes, "Yeah, please take her. I'm done. She's all yours." Now, here is where I might be the a-hole. Up until this point, I was mad, disgusted, and pretty salty someone would do this to a puppy. Up until this point, I was committed to just taking Belle, and if it turned out she'd be part of the family, then I'll be at PetSmart looking for doggy beds. The moment this skinny Seattleite-looking man-child said that, I blew an internal mental gasket. I parted from Lisa, walked over to Ted, and just started yelling. I'm an inch from his face, explaining like a Navy RDC how much of a piece of crap he is for doing this to a puppy. This puppy fell in love with you and isn't going to know what happened or why when I take her. She isn't some toy to use and then discard when she gets hard to handle, blah 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 about commitment and being an adult, blah something about maturity. Yeah, you guys can fill in the rest. Ted goes from annoyed about owning a puppy to I'm being yelled at by my dad looking at the ground. I'm standing over him looking like a Viking at 6'4" tall and weighing in at 230 pounds. I'll admit, he was probably really scared. Anyways, I yelled until my Navy wit ran out of gas, turned around to take Belle home, and told Lisa to call me. Ted and Lisa are now fighting about that she called me, and I went over there and did what I did. Lisa says I could have not done the yelling, and my partner agrees with her, but I don't know. Am I the a-hole here? Edit? Welp, Ted is now single. Edit 1, just woke up and need to catch up, wait 1. Edit 2, Belle is 5 months old now, I believe. I still need to take her to the vet. Edit 3, definitely not bragging about my height and weight. Just telling an unbiased story of what happened. I'm aware I'm probably scary, though my lady certainly isn't. Edit 5, they live together, so him selling Belle to Lisa didn't solve his problem, she'd still be around causing him anxiety. Edit 6, current plan is that I'm going to hold on to Belle until she can get into her new place, probably by the end of the month. Lisa still has every intention of taking her though. Forewarning, coming in hot with a spicy Markee take on this one. I'm gonna go for you're the a-hole here, OP. Feels like you've warped this story to paint Lisa in the best light and her partner in the absolute worst light, when we all know life is grey and absolutely not black and white. Isn't Reddit always going on about responsible pet ownership, positive relationships, and the best way to avoid a bad situation and get yourself into a net positive situation? I think the boyfriend realizing the pet was too much to handle shows maturity and empathy for both himself and the dog, albeit the situation ended in a fight and the end of his relationship with the girlfriend. We all make mistakes in this life. But at least in this situation, he addressed the problem of looking after a dog he's aware he can't handle. Obviously, that is a topic that those two can't agree on. Neither he nor the dog want to be stuck in a lifetime together, both none the better for it. And I can understand why this sets you off, but you're approaching this dispute from a heavily biased perspective, and you took full liberty here to jerk yourself off to your sweaty, self-aggrandizing image. I don't remember asking for that, OP. You've not given me enough ammo here to justify in any capacity your incoherent rambling rage that you set off on the boyfriend, and I imagine if anything, you made their problems worse. I would seriously suggest getting some help for all that pent-up rage, cause it's not helping anyone. You're the a-hole, OP. I see the only logical way for this to work out is that the two break up and Lisa takes the dog. The boyfriend obviously does suck for not letting Lisa take the dog. I don't understand why that became such a sticking point in their relationship, and I agree that he sucks for that one. But it's obvious that these two aren't compatible, and the dog made that very apparent. So I'm sticking with you're the a-hole, leaning into the everyone sucks here judgment. In the comments, Engineering Own 2299 says, everyone sucks here, except Lisa and the dogs. He sucks for not wanting to keep the puppy anymore, but it is much better for him to realize he's not fit to own a puppy and wanting to give it up, because him keeping it would not have been good for the dog, but he was being a dick for not letting Lisa take it since she offered. You suck for using your size to intimidate people and screaming unnecessarily in their faces. You could have just taken the puppy and left. That should happen before he agreed to get a puppy. Yes, he screwed up. Yes, he could have screwed up worse too, and that doesn't excuse it. I don't disagree, but some people don't understand they aren't capable of something until they do it. 100% agree. My parents did a trial run with a 2-year-old dog. A very sweet, well-behaved dog, but lots of energy. They never owned a dog, only cats. I think my mom was expecting him to just behave and lay around until they walked him twice a day. Day 1 did well. By day 2, he was bored and started chewing and getting into things. My dad was more active with the dog, but he still goes to work and mum works from home, so she didn't have time to entertain him. Eventually, he started chasing the cats because that's entertainment. Didn't do this in foster, so I'm pretty sure he was bored. My parents gave him up after 5 days. They did all the research and bought supplies, but once it came down to it, they realized they didn't have enough dog knowledge to keep him entertained and didn't have the time for this breed. Some people think they can handle it until they're in the situation. I'm going to make an unpopular declaration. You're the a-hole for a few reasons. 1. Realizing early that you're actually not cut out for dog ownership, that it is more stressful than you realized or whatever, it actually is the more responsible thing to get the dog rehomed. The person shouldn't have to be miserable for 10 to 15 years for miscalculating what they could handle, and the dog deserves a home where the owner loves it as much as it loves them. The puppy will be fine after getting a new owner and will be much happier in the long run. It is best for all involved. Yeah, ideally someone who isn't cut out to own a dog wouldn't get a dog in the first place, but sometimes well-meaning people can miscalculate what they're capable of, even after doing the research. It happens. People in here seem to be acting as if not realizing you're not able to take care of a dog is some sort of moral failing. But how exactly is one supposed to know that before they experience it? The second reason you're the a-hole is that there is almost never a reason to get up in somebody's face and start aggressively yelling and intimidating them. What exactly did you accomplish by doing this? Nothing changed. Unless you're exaggerating your behavior to come across as a Reddit cool, the behavior you describe makes you sound like a loon. Look into anger management. The comments saying that he should have known he couldn't look after a dog prior to getting the dog are hurting my brain. You can't know you can't do something before you attempt it for the first time. That's not how anything works. Right? Plus, you can do everything right and still not be able to handle it. I have a friend that prepared months for her puppy before she got it, researched and everything. When she finally got her puppy, her anxiety went through the roof and she was having panic attacks about not being a good pet mom. She's not an a-hole for her anxiety. Unfortunately, there's some people out there who value dogs over human life. Dogs are nothing special. They're just an animal like any other. Nobody is obliged to keep an animal they don't want. For some reason, people see dog and lose any common sense and reasoning. Also, OP was literally jerking himself off or centering himself as the hero of this story, when in reality, he's the a-hole, and so is his best friend who threw a tantrum because she didn't get to keep the dog and decided to call OP to intimidate another person. Posted by user, someone deleted their account lol. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend's co-worker that we're not married? I've been with my boyfriend for about 5 years. We live together. He does not want to get married, which I'm fine with now, but it was a point of contention early on in our relationship. Boyfriend was talking to coworker on Zoom when I brought him some coffee. Coworker said something like, "So this is the lovely life I've heard so much about." I said something like, "Thanks, but we're not married." He said, "Oh, boyfriend always calls you his wife," and then introduced himself. I introduced myself, then ended the conversation and left as quickly as I could, while still being polite because both boyfriend and coworker were giving me a weird vibe. A little while later, boyfriend came out of the office and asked, "What was that?" I didn't know what he meant, so I asked, "What was what?" Boyfriend then said that there was absolutely no need for me to correct coworker, and that it's better if people think I'm his wife. I said I'm not his wife, I'm his girlfriend, and he never told me that he told other people that I'm his wife. This somehow becomes an argument, with my side being that boyfriend never told me that his co-workers think we're married, and boyfriend's side being that I should have figured that being called his wife indicated that co-worker thought I was his wife, and I shouldn't have corrected him. And when I said I thought he'd just made an assumption, boyfriend said that wasn't the point. The point was that there was no need to correct him, that it was rude, and that it makes boyfriend look like a d-bag. He then said that the solution to this is that when he next has a video call with coworker, he wants me to come in again, strike up a conversation, and say that I was messing with him, and that boyfriend is actually husband, and us not being married is an inside joke that I thought the coworker was in on. I then said that was the dumbest effing plan he'd ever come up with, and no effing way am I doing that. And he said that I was being an a-hole, that I got him into this, and now I have to bail him out. Am I the a-hole? I don't understand why he would want you to be referred to as his wife and not girlfriend. That seems like something that shouldn't ever be an issue, and I've never heard of something like this in my life before now. Isn't it weird that he's, so insistent that she fixed this quote-unquote mistake and justify her actions to a coworker? What in gaslighting tarnation is going on here? Not the a-hole for sure, OP. What universe exactly are you an a-hole in for doing this? I love gifs of Jif says, not the a-hole. That is so shady, and it feels like there's a lot more going on. If you're not married, he doesn't get the perks, and that includes calling you his wife. I wonder if he's lying to take advantage of this discriminatory information that shows that married men make more money than single ones. Edit, not an endorsement, hence the discriminatory comment. And that discriminatory information is by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis that says, "For love or money, why married men make more." If you want to find it, just Google that statement. Yeah, I'm also wondering about FMLA, promotions, looking good to upper management, etc. Why not just get married then? Edit, I'm getting a lot of reasons why they aren't married, and honestly, that's not what I meant. I meant if he's faking it for his job, clearly, and is going as far to try to pressure OP to lie, stupidly too, then why is he so against getting married? He might as well at this point. Because right now there is no strings attached. He can act like he has a wife without any consequences of actually being married, like having to split finances when OP decides she's finally done with him. Hell no, not the a-hole. Why is he calling you his wife and he doesn't marry you? That seems kinda stupid. Having a wife is a leg up in a lot of professional contexts. It gives the impression you're dependable, settled, a family man, more than if you were just casually dating around. OP's boyfriend wants the societal benefit of marriage among his co-workers without the commitment. P.S. OP, do not marry this schmuck. This is a real thing for men in the corporate world. The company I used to work for, a guy when he was hired had on a ring, and would talk about his wife and kids, and seem like a real family man. The head honchos loved him, and it wasn't until a few years at being with the company, someone found out he'd made it all up to advance himself in the job because his bosses and leaders were all family-minded. I don't know how they found out, but he left not long after it spread around the company like wildfire. I don't necessarily think it would have been that big a deal if he hadn't spun all these elaborate stories about weekends with his wife and trips that he would take with his family when he took vacation time. He was in deep. Not the a-hole. That would be the stupidest inside joke in history. If your boyfriend, husband, is adamant in calling you his wife, why doesn't he propose, lol? Considering your long history too. Exactly what I said. I can't imagine getting on the thing with coworker and being like, yeah, I jokingly act like we're not married, and acting like that's just a normal thing to do. She could do it, but do it in a robotic, terrified voice, or read it off index cards like she's making a hostage video. Hold up a copy of that day's newspaper, etc. That would serve him right. Hold up, guys. Haha, we have the answers to this one because OP updated this post, saying, Update. We talked, he's effing a female coworker. Apparently, I can't leave my wife for you sounds better than I can't leave my girlfriend for you. So now he's going to have to tell people we've divorced. And everyone lived happily ever after, right? Posted by user UnstablePotato123. Titled, Am I the a-hole for uninviting my grandma to my wedding? So I'm getting married. And when I was on a call with my grandmother, who's 75, she was super excited to come, and I was excited to have her there. I'm her oldest grandchild, so we have a special relationship. But a few days ago, she learned that my sister, my maid of honor, is gay, and I invited her girlfriend. She was furious about the gay thing, and told me that either I uninvite the girlfriend or she doesn't come, and I immediately said that if this is the way she thinks, I don't want her there. Now my whole family is telling me to just uninvite the girlfriend and re-invite my grandma. Sounds bad, but I, my fiancé, my sister, and her girlfriend live in one apartment now. They lost an apartment for 2020 reasons, and the girlfriend has basically been my roommate for 6 months now. I'm very close to her, closer than my granny actually, and I really want her there. My family's opinion is that I am the a-hole. Edit, I'm Eastern European, and homophobia is still very present here. That's why the family is okay with granny's behavior, even though they love my sister and tolerate her girlfriends. It's all around them. And edit 2, I was never considering uninviting the girlfriend. The question is, am I the a-hole for uninviting grandma rather than letting her make the decision? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I might be the a-hole because I choose someone unrelated over a relative to come to my wedding. At the end of the day, it's your wedding, and no one gets to decide who comes and doesn't come to your wedding. If she insisted that you uninvite this one person based purely on sexual orientation alone, or else she's boycotting the event, then zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day, Grandma's not coming to this wedding today. Also, very questionable enabling by the rest of the family there, defending the grandmother, oh my god. Not the a-hole, OP. Not the a-hole. Doing the right thing isn't always popular. Even if you hadn't been living together, disinviting the girlfriend because of bigotry wouldn't be morally right. Have a wonderful wedding. Edit to say many thanks for the awards and upvotes. I had a similar sitch when my brother came out, so this post struck a nerve. If you're gay, there's more of us who have your back than those who don't. Yes, I was going to say the same thing. It doesn't matter if the girlfriend is a total stranger to you, stick with your principles. You will probably feel better deep down in your soul, knowing you did what was right rather than feeling false on the day. Seconding this one, it's not about the girlfriend, it's about standing up for your sister. If this is the way she treats her granddaughter, then her place is at home, when you're getting married. You can give in to the prejudice or stand up against it. If OP gives in, then she can't consider herself an ally to queer people or her sister. I'm queer, and if my sister excluded my same-sex partner, I would feel betrayed in the most cruel and painful way. A sisterly bond is sacred, and it trumps grandparents. OP might offend her family's feelings, but to exclude her sister's girlfriend would be to reject who her sister is. It says, you're not normal, and you can't participate fully. OP knows what to do, it's just a question of dealing with the family fallout. I suggest a united front with all the housemates, with everyone reminding OP to have fun and celebrate despite family prejudices making things difficult. And OP replies, I would never even consider not inviting the girlfriend. The question was never, girlfriend or grandma to me. It was always, do I try to convince Granny or just let her stay home? There's still 4 months until the wedding, so maybe Grandma will come to her senses. Interestingly, Grandpa, her husband, is the only adult member of my father's side of the family who thinks Grandma overreacted by giving me an ultimatum though. Just thought I'd mention how cool my grandfather is. Not the a-hole. Your wedding. Invite whoever you want. They are all the a-hole for dictating who you should invite. That being said, I'd just invite both, then if the grandma doesn't come, then it's on her and not you. And OP replies, yeah, that's the a-hole part for me. I just really don't want my granny there now. I love her, but I don't want the drama that she would cause even if she came. Just say, if your hate for a stranger overrides your love for me, then it's better that you not come. And Awesome Possum says, not the a-hole. Your grandma said her or sister's girlfriend and you chose. She shouldn't have given you an ultimatum for your own wedding. It is your wedding, and it's up to you to decide who is there. Grandma is the a-hole not only for being homophobic, but for trying to back you into a corner and use you loving her against you to push her beliefs onto you and your wedding. Sucks to suck, Grandma. Yeah, she thought the ultimatum was gonna do something, and it backfired on her. Indeed. Really, Granny uninvited herself. If she wants to re-invite herself, she knows what she needs to do. And oh look, an update. As many of you suggested, I told my sister and her girlfriend. My sister was mad that I didn't tell her sooner, but we ended up agreeing that Grandma, and one more relative actually, are not invited and no way back. Turned out Granny, and especially the other relative, were bullying them on Facebook and other social media, but mostly Facebook, and were outing them online. Apparently both have been messaging my sister to verbally abuse her since she came out, and she didn't want to tell me for the same reason I didn't tell her about the wedding stuff. So I'm no longer questioning who the a-hole is here. So I ask the mods to stop the comments, because my dumb ass has no idea how to do that. Thank you to everyone who believes my granny can change, and I will keep trying with her after the wedding. Posted by user ThrowRAConvo. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I don't have to speak to our daughter until I feel comfortable? I found out a couple days ago that our daughter, 17 female, is pregnant. I was so angry that I just went numb and walked away. I've never been so disappointed in my life. We used to be super close, but I don't even talk to her anymore. Today, my daughter came over to me while I was watching TV and asked if we were still watching the Super Bowl together. I was going to ignore her, but I told her, this is the last time I'm speaking to you, because obviously everything I've been telling you over the years just goes in one ear and out the other. I've never been so disappointed in my life. I told you about safe sex, condoms, birth control. On top of that, you betrayed my trust. You used to tell me everything. I argued with your mother all those times about letting you go to your boyfriend's house because I thought you were responsible and that you would come to me if anything happened. But I was wrong. So from now on, don't talk to me ever again. Anything you want to talk to me about, go tell your mother and have her pass it on to me. Later, my wife comes into my den and asks what happened. I told her to ask her daughter. She said she did, but she couldn't understand her because she was crying so much. I told her what I had said, and she got upset and said that I have to talk to her. I told her no, I already did, and I'm not talking to her again until I feel comfortable, and I don't know when that might be. Maybe never. Edit. Our daughter told us that she was pregnant not last Friday, but the Friday before that. Like I said, I haven't been speaking to my daughter since then, but my wife used to tell me what was going on until I told her to stop. What I've been told is, the boyfriend wants to be a part of my daughter's life and raise the baby. His family is supportive. My daughter and her boyfriend were practicing safe sex and using condoms, but he ran out one day and they decided to use the pull-out method. And that's when I told my wife I didn't want to hear anymore. You're acting like such a child right now, OP. It's incredible that you're able to paint yourself in such a juvenile light that they're having to rewrite the book What to Expect When You're Expecting just to include a photo of you in it, lol. Your daughter is obviously so incredibly vulnerable right now and did something stupid, as all people do from time to time. We all make mistakes, OP, and being young, we make lots of mistakes. Instead of stepping up and supporting her like you're supposed to do as a parent, you're abandoning her and showing her you'd rather be a spineless prick than a solid foundation of familial support. You're the a-hole, OP. Who Fears Death says, you're the a-hole. I'd tell you why, but I'm not talking to you. Lamau? Seriously though, the OP is definitely the a-hole. An abusive a-hole at that. Becoming pregnant at an unexpectedly young age is not a moral failing. This isn't 1950, and the OP has no right to degrade or abuse his daughter in such a disrespectful way at a time when she is clearly feeling vulnerable. People have sex, including teens on the brink of adulthood. That's how life works. Sex is a normal part of being human, and sometimes that sex accidentally results in little humans. Sometimes biological reality asserts itself. A real parent would be proud of the daughter handling the adult choices she's having to make and supportive of her going through the struggles an unexpected pregnancy as a teen necessitates. It's admirable the daughter and her partner are stepping up like adults, unlike the OP, who seems to be resorting to childish silent treatments. The daughter here is well within her rights, never to speak to the OP again after such a callous display of narcissism, judgment, and cruelty. Edit. Dear faux Christians DMing me nonsense vilifying the daughter and determining I'm somehow by extension obviously a bear? I really find your ability to be simultaneously desperate for women not to have abortions, yet also desperate to shame them for choosing to keep their babies, incredibly cringeworthy. Please don't bother quoting religious texts at me, as you clearly lack the comprehension to understand them. I'm embarrassed for you, and I'm pretty damn sure Jesus would think you're dickheads. Whilst I agree with most of your post, it wasn't a mistake that she had sex without using contraception. That's a choice, and it's a choice that she obviously knew could result in a human. Also, not an accident. She rolled the dice and lost. I didn't say it wasn't a mistake, I said it wasn't a moral failing, and it's certainly not one worthy of the abuse the OP is now objecting their daughter to. You used to tell me everything. You berate your daughter for sharing something really important with you. You destroy her for it. You wonder why you aren't close anymore. Think of the impossible standards you've set for her. How about holding yourself accountable for a change? You're the a-hole. And edits, this comment was posted before OP added his edits. I want to clarify that I was not referring to teen pregnancy or birth control methods. OP is still the a-hole regardless. And edit 2, some of y'all don't get it. The impossible standard is the daughter being able to talk to OP and trust him. You're the a-hole. Wow. So you're outsourcing your parenting duties to the good old-fashioned silent treatment, eh? Guess what? Accidents happen, and unless you had a steady supply of condoms and made birth control available to your daughter, then I'm not sure how giving her safe sex talks will help much. Safe sex talks also need to be paired with making resources available to young people. If you don't, they're still going to have sex because they're still figuring out what the hell is going on. She's never had a kid. She doesn't know exactly how hard that can be, especially for a minor. And you decided to make it harder for your temper tantrum. You have proven to your daughter to not share anything with you because when she does, you walk out on her. Just expect that by the time you're comfortable, you'll turn around and be like, hey, guess what? I'm here emotionally, and she'll be gone until she's comfortable. She won't know when that might be. Hopefully never. Posted by user 6657 Throwaway. Titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my stepbrother and his friends out after what they did at my engagement party? I, male 30, have a younger stepbrother Kevin, 22. I let him move into my old apartment and pay cheaper rent along with his 2 other friends because they're struggling with college. They needed a cheaper place but couldn't find one. I'd help him out by getting his car fixed, lend him money, bring him meals. I'd take care of my mum who's at the hospital. My fiancé and I decided to have a small celebration at a restaurant with 8 people. There were a lot of people I wanted, including my mum, but couldn't. I have high blood pressure that, despite medication, gets worse. Kevin wanted to bring his friends to my engagement party. I declined and explained that we're having a small celebration. He was upset, but then dropped it. We got to the restaurant, and just as we started eating, I got a call from Kevin saying he's at the hospital where Mum's staying. I asked him why, and he sounded worried, telling me that Mum was very sick and that I needed to get there because it seemed like she was having a stroke. I dropped my fork. My fiancé and parents noticed how pale I was. I hung up, and I was getting ready to leave. They asked what was going on, and I told them my mum was very sick and I needed to go to the hospital. Fiancé wanted to come, but I didn't take her. I got there. I went to the nurses who were handling my mum's care, and they denied her having any sudden issues, let alone a stroke. I couldn't stand on my feet. I called Kevin several times until he picked up. He started laughing along with the others in the background. I was confused. He told me it was a prank and that I fell for it. He said we're even, since they couldn't show up to my engagement party. I started yelling at him till he hung up. My fiancé's parents were calling, and I felt terrible because I didn't know what to tell them. It was a prank. My fiancé's family thought I was lying, and I kept saying my mom was doing okay. I drove to my apartment where Kevin was staying, and I got into an argument with him and his buddies. I yelled at them for ruining my engagement dinner and causing me stress, knowing I have high blood pressure. I told them to pack their things and move out. Kevin started begging, saying I can't do this over a prank, and they had nowhere to go. I told him it wasn't my problem. They kept saying it was a prank and they didn't expect me to react like that. Then they left. My aunt called me saying Kevin was an a-hole for what he did, but kicking him out was extreme and I was too harsh on him. Eventually I realized that's my brother and I need to be supportive of him even though he's acting stupid. I take some of the blame, as my fiance said, because they did things before and I should have stopped them, but I couldn't imagine them going this far. Kevin's mum is deceased and I help him with whatever I can because I know he's struggling. His aunt isn't my biological aunt, but I respect her enough to consider her family. But defending this behavior isn't acceptable. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I think I was too harsh on him, and I exploded because of how angry I was, but I just couldn't handle his behavior anymore. I don't think your reaction to your own mother potentially passing away was extreme. If anything, it was extremely understandable on your end, and completely heartless for Kevin to have done that. His mum is dead, so he knows all too well the feeling of losing his mother, yet he still chose to inflict you with that pain as a prank. You kicking him out was not extreme, and you were by no means harsh on him. He knew damn well what he was doing, and is having to face the consequences of his actions. Anything less than what you did would be bordering on enabling and forgiving his actions. You absolutely do not need to be supportive of him anymore. He lost that privilege by doing this to you. Time to move on from him and let him figure out his life on his own. He deserves it, OP. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Does Furzbunt says, "Are you kidding me with this post? I believe you. It's too insane to make up. I have no other words than obviously not the a-hole." Quote, "My aunt called me saying Kevin was an a-hole for what he did, but kicking him out was extreme and I was too harsh on him. Eventually, that's my brother and I need to be supportive of him even though he's acting stupid." End quote. Let your aunt take his prank ass in then. Yes, hasn't even apologized. Not the a-hole. All this all day. A prank is like calling the restaurant and having the staff ask if huge ass Johnson is sitting with the party. A prank is not calling to say that your already frail mother is having a stroke. Not the a-hole. He sounds like a cruel and vindictive individual. Kick him out, cut all ties. Bye, Felicia. Ain't nobody got time for that silly business like that. Yeah. Even he knew this wasn't a funny prank, but a vindictive action to get even for what he perceived as a slight, which is also ridiculous. He's just upset that it worked too well, and you were in fact hurt by it. He thinks he's being slighted by the OP over a dinner, while the OP is subsidizing his food and shelter. Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. Not the a-hole. That was not a prank, it was downright cruel. Kick him out and sublease the apartment to someone else. If he thinks that's even remotely funny, you'll be teaching him a valuable lesson by throwing him out. OP replies, "It's my fault. He and his friends did things before that were enough for me to cut contact with them, but this is unforgivable." It's not your fault that your brother is the a-hole. There's something very wrong with someone who would use his own mother's health to get back at you. Good for you for kicking him out. This may be the lesson he needs to grow the hell up. Stay strong. Congratulations on your engagement. You deserve family that supports you. And Rice Correct says, "Not the a-hole. Kevin sounds cruel, and I wouldn't want to live with that kind of nastiness. What he did wasn't a prank, it was cruel and on an important, meaningful day for you. He didn't expect you to react like that. He made you think your mum was really sick and disrupted your engagement dinner. He surely knows you're on blood pressure medication. Anyone knows that you don't purposely try to scare someone who has high blood pressure. It's dangerous. Kevin is acting childish and needs to grow up. He can start by finding his own place to live on his own." I feel like the blood pressure doesn't add much to this story. I'm not on blood pressure medication, and if anyone did this to me, there's no way in hell they'd ever be welcome back into my life. The high blood pressure adds to this because people can literally die if it gets too low or too high. So there was potential for that prank to have killed OP if it worsened his blood pressure. Not the a-hole. That's something to expect from an immature middle schooler, but he's an adult. Kick him the hell out. And OP replies, not only him, but the others as well. I was shocked. I really thought those were decent guys who were struggling, and I was a fool for feeling sorry for them. What they did, and how they made me look in front of my fiance's parents, they made me look like a liar, and caused me so much stress, and got me worried sick about my mum. Posted by user Dusty Bookshade, titled, Am I the a-hole for giving my best friend my money without consulting my wife? Throwaway. I, 32 male, have been together with my wife, Erin, 31 female, for 7 years now. Married for 3 years. We have a daughter, Evelyn, 1.5 female. I have a best friend who I grew up with, Sarah, 32 female. We were neighbors from age 4, went to the same college, and lived together as roommates until I got married. My wife and Sarah aren't best friends. They've never really gotten along, but they remain cordial with each other. My wife insists that Sarah is in love with me. She isn't. We're more like siblings since we're the only child of our parents, and they even refer to both of us as their kids. Besides, Sarah is bi, but has only been dating women in all of our adult lives. My wife and I make roughly around the same salary. I make $85K a year, and she makes $87K a year. We split everything and designate a set amount of our joint savings accounts, emergency, vacation, and regular savings. We get to spend the remainder of our monies on whatever we want. I don't consult her when I use my money, and neither does she. Sarah has wanted to be a lawyer since we were in high school. She decided to take a gap year after undergrad, and that gap year turned into many years. She lost her job last March due to the pandemic, and decided to do the LSAT to finally go to law school. She couldn't afford all the high-end tutors and program, but ended up doing really well. She's depleted most of her savings, and I'm pretty sure she's down to her last dollar, but she hasn't asked me for a cent through all of this. She finalized all her applications for law schools, but didn't have enough money to pay for it all. She mentioned it in passing that she has about 60% of the cost, but that means she'd have to eat ramen for the next few months. So I decided to send her the money. She was extremely grateful and promised to pay it back. I told her not to. My wife found out from a mutual friend that I paid for the application fees, and she's livid that I didn't consult her. I don't think I should have, since it wasn't money from our joint account, but my individual account. She's giving me the cold shoulder, and she's now asking for the complete separation of finances. Edit to add, since many people have asked this, I gave Sarah about $3K. In the past, both wife and I have given people money without consulting each other. I think her issue is primarily with the fact that the money was given to Sarah. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I think I'm the a-hole for not telling her about it, knowing how she feels about my best friend. Look, I think there was a precedent set in the past that made it clear that, giving people money was an acceptable thing to do, but obviously you're warping the truth in this situation, OP, and I think even you know what you did was unacceptable and pushes the boundaries. You intentionally hid this information from your wife and refused to tell her when questioned, forcing her to find out from a friend. Like, come on, man. You don't get to make unilateral decisions like this in a marriage and go behind your partner's back. It's simply unacceptable and shameful. You know your wife is uncomfortable with this woman being in your life, and just because she's only been with women this entire time, that's no excuse for you to ignore your own wife's feelings and insecurities. There's a lot wrong with you and this situation as a whole, OP. You're the a-hole. And in the comments, you're the a-hole. 1. Even though you don't normally consult your wife for every monetary transaction, this is different. You gave money to a girl that your wife feels is too close to you, and thinks is in love with you. Even if she's wrong about Sarah being in love with you, her feelings are understandable, given how close you are, but you decided not to consider her feelings at all. 2. The fact you didn't tell your wife means you knew she wouldn't be okay with it, and you did it anyway. And 3. The fact that a mutual friend knew before your wife is a slap in the face to your wife. Point 2 is a big one to me. I want to say not the a-hole, but this point makes it so I can't. Firm agree with this post, you're the a-hole. The fact that she wouldn't have been okay with it is absolutely irrelevant. It was his money. He didn't tell because he knew she was going to give him crap over something that is brought about by her own insecurities, and given how she reacted, I don't blame him. Okay, I see where you're coming from here. It's his money, he decides how it gets spent at the end of the day. But as a husband who loves his partner and wants to reassure her, it would have been the non-a-hole move to approach her with this and let her know his plans so that she didn't feel like her husband was sneaking around behind her back with a woman she has already expressed distrust for. We don't know this man or his woman best friend. We don't see their dynamic. Obviously, he doesn't think his BFF has feelings for him, so he won't word the post in a way that recognizes that the BFF might have feelings for him. The wife sees all of this, and her observations and worries deserve to be validated, being that she isn't using them to control her husband's actions. He should have told her his intentions with the money and been honest from the start. If he had been honest with her, and she had then tried to control how he spent his personal money, then the wife would be the a-hole. But in this case, he was secretive so that he didn't have to deal with his wife's insecurities and worries. And now she feels lied to and upset. You're the a-hole. Let's shoe is on the other foot this. Your wife has a male friend she's known since she was a kid. They're extremely close and live together for years. You don't like this man, and you feel he's harboring some sort of more than friend feelings for your wife. You expressed this to your wife, she brushes it off and maintains the close bond she has with the man. So you try to suck it up and play nice, because hey, they've been friends for years, and just maybe you aren't so sure if it came down to it, that your wife would distance herself from him if you asked. Even though you're supposed to be life partners and have a child together, it's a source of tension and insecurity. Then you find out one day, from someone else, that your wife gave him money and never mentioned it. Didn't bring up that the friend is having a hard time, didn't mention in passing that she was thinking of giving him money, didn't mention that money was given, didn't mention that she told him not to worry about paying him back. Depending on how much money we're talking, the lack of consulting is not the problem. The crap-ass communication is. If it's a large sum, you screwed up twice. If your friend is a sore point in your marriage, hiding when and what you do with said friend is not a good life choice. It's going to make it worse. Do you hear me? Worse. Knock it off. Stop undermining your marriage. If you have to hide it from your partner, you should not be doing it. And surprisingly, there's an update to this post from OP. To answer a few questions that came up in the comments, Sarah didn't ask for $3,000. I estimated that the application fees would be around $1,500 to $2,000, and I added additional money because I know she won't ask me for money if she needs it. My wife found out from Sarah's friend. Like I said, we're part of the same social circle. My wife hasn't provided any reason why she dislikes Sarah or why she thinks she's in love with me. She said that it's her gut feeling, and her gut is never wrong. I've made a few concessions in the past to keep the peace, like not making Sarah my best man at the wedding or part of the wedding party, not making her our child's godmother, although she babysits her the most, and only hanging out with her when my wife is around. But I couldn't watch someone who was like a biological sister to me suffer because of how my wife feels about her. After reading the comments, I apologized to my wife last night and agreed to the complete separation of finances. She also asked that I have no contact with Sarah going forward. I told her that I'd need time to think about that. I couldn't stomach cutting someone off who has been part of my life for the past 28 years. She got really upset that I wouldn't agree to this right away and decided to sleep in the guest room. This morning, I received screenshots of text messages between my wife and Sarah that she sent her over the week, calling Sarah all sorts of names and berating her. Her words were cruel, and her reaction really is out of character. I confronted my wife for sending those messages when I'm the one at fault. She has left the house. I don't know where we go from here, but I'm logging off for a while to attend to my child and prepare for the worst. Thank you for all your judgments. Posted by user OKMarket7437, titled, Am I the a-hole for saying that my boyfriend lacks the competence to call himself a psychologist? My boyfriend, 28, has a degree in accounting and finance. Ever since I met him, he's been passionate about giving dating advice to his friends and calls himself the modern-day Hitch. He's always said that he wanted to write a book so he can help men get the girl of their dreams. Fast forward to now, he's finally written 2 books that he sells on Amazon. I don't know the names and haven't read them because he refuses to show me. He's also started taking clients and now calls himself a dating coach. We had a conversation about how he has a new client now, and I expressed my excitement for him. He then went on to talk about how crazy it is that people are not willing to invest money in their mental health, a statement to which I agreed with him on. He continued by saying how he felt that he was helping people improve their mental health, and said that maybe he should call himself a dating psychologist. I laughed a bit and said he probably shouldn't do that because he doesn't have enough competence to call himself a psychologist. He immediately gets angry by my statement and asks me why I feel that way. I simply say that he hasn't read enough about the human mind and lacks knowledge in the fields. He gets pissed and we have a whole argument about how negative I am and how I'm trying to bring him down. Up until this point, I've always been supportive about his dating coach thing, because it makes him happy. I simply made that statement because I do feel that he should read more and gain more knowledge in the field before giving people the impression that he can help them with their mental health issues. Again, I think it's fine for him to call himself a dating coach, but I felt a psychologist was pushing it. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Thank you for the comments. Just wanted to clarify a couple of things. 1. He doesn't have a lot of clients, as he only started doing this 3 months ago, so it's not a big source of income for him, just a side hustle. 2. He also says that he's not called himself a psychologist in the book, to his clients or on his Instagram yet, which is where he gets most of the clients. He was just considering whether or not he should change his title, which is where I expressed that he shouldn't. 3. I work as an HR consultant and have a background in psychology BSc and occupational psychology MSc. So he claims that it's triggering for me when I hear other people call themselves psychologists. I don't call myself a psychologist because I don't have a PhD or the qualifications to do so. 4. He won't allow me to read the book because he believes I'll be giving unwanted criticism due to me having studied psychology. And 5. I don't think he's giving any toxic pickup advice, as that's not what I hear him give his friends. And that would be very out of his character, but I obviously might be wrong. I just wanted to know if I was being rigid and negative in my responses to him due to my background. Edit 2. Some of you are commenting on the fact that I'm taking the title psychologist lightly. I of course understand that it requires tests, supervised training, and qualifications to be a licensed psychologist. This is my first time posting on here, and I should have spent some time clarifying my statement. In my country, however, a small European country, I'm a bit paranoid to state where I'm from on the internet as we're a small country, and I don't want any ways of being recognized. The title psychologist is not protected unless you use the word clinical psychologist. I still feel that using the term is misleading, hence our argument. He's from the UK, but lives in my country. Look, in my opinion, your boyfriend sounds like your average, run-of-the-mill, snake oil salesman, and is using his confidence to push pseudoscience onto people. Like, sure, you can be a nice little motivational speaker and charge people for your advice and weird wisdom, but I can see why him pushing it to the next level by calling himself a psychologist wouldn't sit well with you. You're qualified, you understand that area, and you've dedicated so much time to it that if I were you, I'd also take great offense to his actions. You calling him out here doesn't make you an a-hole in any capacity. He knows he's in the wrong for this one, he knows he's an asshole, and it seems as if he just does not care. There's probably good reason he's hiding those books from you, OP. Tread carefully with this man who's happy to knowingly keep secrets from you and lie to everyone else, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Maroon Fahrenheit says, not the a-hole. That said, your boyfriend won't let you read his books about dating and relationships? What he calls himself is probably the least of your problems. For real. That's weird and sends up all kinds of red flags for me. You gotta read those books. Not the a-hole, more like read the room. He should also read the law. Psychologist is a protected title in many places, meaning that him presenting himself as one without being licensed could lead to significant legal issues. I feel like OP should know that too, considering her reported background. According to her edit, he feels she'll critique based on her background in psychology, aka he's not interested in whether what he says is correct or not, which fits with him being happy to misrepresent himself as a psychologist. Doesn't seem like ethics, standards, or personal integrity mean much to this guy. Not the a-hole. Why bother with qualifications when you can just lie? Yeah, I consider myself the equivalent of a psychiatric professional, but reject even the idea of a peer review. This dude's a real situation. Not the a-hole, especially if he's going out of his way to misrepresent himself as a mental health professional. Side note, I'd personally be super suspicious he was putting out red pill type content if he was afraid for me to see his dating advice. Flag worth keeping an eye on at least. I was thinking this same thing about the red pill type of stuff, like, what's he actually saying about women to his clients? Psychologist has a specific meaning, and it implies training and licensure. It would be irresponsible for him to call himself a psychologist, not the a-hole. Posted by user Throw Appointment Away. Titled, Am I the a-hole for thinking my wife should take some of the blame for missing her appointment? For context, my wife, 34 female, has a heart rhythm disorder. It's been well controlled with medication and home care, but after a couple of scary ER visits, she decided it was time to see her cardiologist for an adjustment in her dosage and possibly a referral to an electrophysiologist. I, 42 male, had known about this appointment since October 2020. She booked the appointment in October but couldn't be seen until February because they were so backlogged. I initially decided to take the whole day off because it's a 2-hour drive from where we live. Then, I had a couple of projects that I still hadn't completed, so I told her I would go into work the day of her appointment and be out of there in time to take her. The projects took longer than anticipated, and as I worked, customers kept coming in, and it became harder to get away. We needed to be on the road by 1 in the afternoon, and all of a sudden, 1 came, then 1:30, then 2. She called and texted me several times, but I couldn't pick up or respond because, as I said, I was super busy. I finally got off work half an hour after closing and came home to a very angry wife. She said she couldn't believe I would just not contact her about what was going on and leaves things up in the air like that. And she was really mad that she had missed an appointment with a specialist that took ages to get into. Admittedly, I got a bit defensive, and I told her that if she didn't have to rely on me to take her and could drive herself, none of this would be an issue. So it wasn't my fault alone that she missed her appointment. She didn't say much after that, but she looked hurt and has been quiet the rest of the evening. I feel like I could have been wrong here because the reason she doesn't drive is she can have an episode of this heart rhythm thing at any time, and she's afraid of that happening and causing an accident. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. Because I had assured my wife I would transport her to her appointment, then blamed her inability to drive when I failed to do so. I know this is a sore spot for her because she was very independent before this medical condition arose. So you're then fully aware that you're absolutely the problem here and contributing to the possible premature death of your wife as a result of this medical condition. You were so incredibly vague about what job you work, what kind of project you were working on, and whether or not you're an essential worker. For all I know, you could be offering 2-for-1 deals in the back alley of Denny's, and the project you were working on was a sloppy Sunday surprise for the manager of the place, and you were just so swamped with customers, you didn't even have time to come back up for air. I genuinely hope that your wife escapes you to be with her family. You had the absolute goal to turn this situation on your wife and blame her for not being able to make her appointment. Shame on you. You do not deserve this person in your life. You're the a-hole, and I hope you get fired from your rub and tug fest you've got going on at work, OP. In the comments, Duke with an egg says, "You're the a-hole. You misled her into believing you were going to help her, then disappeared for the day and made yourself unreachable. If she had known in advance that you were going to be useless to her, she could have arranged alternative travel plans. Also, it turns out that she can't drive because of her heart condition, and most places charge you for not turning up to the appointment. Surprised how many people are missing this. He's blaming her for missing her appointment because she can't drive, when actually, she can't drive because of the heart condition she needed the appointment for. Honestly, even if she could drive, I'd still call him the a-hole here simply because the plan was to wait for him and he didn't communicate. But add on that she can't drive, and specifically can't drive because of this very condition she's trying to get treated, and oh my god, I can't even imagine a world in which she would somehow be in the wrong. I'm glad she's made the decision not to put other people's lives at risk, since she knows something could happen to her heart while driving. I'm sorry her husband couldn't even put her life above a project at work." You're the a-hole. Are you effing serious? As I worked, customers kept coming in and it became harder to get away. The second you realized you weren't going to make that 1 PM departure, the onus was on you to get in touch with your wife and inform her. No, actually, considering how ridiculously controlling you've been about this whole thing, I told her I'd go into work. The second that happened, it became your job to arrange alternate transportation. I told her that if she didn't have to rely on me to take her, no, she didn't have to. You just did everything in your power to make her rely on you. Just one of these days, I'm waiting to see the relationship with the 10-year age difference where the much older male isn't an a-hole. Basically, OP is saying it's her fault she trusted me when I promised to take her to the doctor. She should have known I'm an unreliable a-hole who doesn't keep his word. Customers have priority over his wife with a heart condition. That just says it all. Posted by user, Maybe I Am the A-hole. Titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my boyfriend a hypocrite when he told me to stop spending so much time on my crocheting? Yes, I know this sounds ridiculous, but he's fuming with me at the moment and I can't get through to him. Okay, well, I crochet a lot. Like a lot. It's my hobby and helps me deal with my really bad anxiety. My partner doesn't like that I do it so much. Just to set some background, I work full-time, and when I'm not working, I make sure to clean up our house, make some dinner, ensure the dog has had a walk, just general household upkeep, before I sit down on the sofa and crochet. When my boyfriend came up to me today and said that he's unhappy with how much time I spend crocheting, I'm not gonna lie, I laughed a bit, and basically said, "You spend more time playing games in one day than I do crocheting in a week." He really did not like that answer. I told him that before I crochet, I ensure that all my household duties are done, that dinner is made, etc. My boyfriend works part-time from home, and when he's not working, he's playing games. Just getting himself to clean the bathroom once a week is a task in itself. He is fuming with me now, and saying I'm attacking him, and asking if I just want him to stop doing what makes him happy. I said that's not the case at all. Then he said that I'm just angry with him because he gets to work from home? Also not the case. I work in a brain rehabilitation unit, I've always enjoyed my job, and obviously it's not a career when I can just work from home. I called him a hypocrite with how he's trying to tell me off for doing something too much when he himself can't even get basic chores done. Now he's got the huff with me, and anytime I try to make a conversation, he cusses me out, lol. Am I the a-hole for calling him a hypocrite? And I was asked to include this comment to why he came up to me in the first place about this. I probably should have mentioned his reasoning. The reason I mentioned the chores is because that's what he told me I should be doing more of. He said instead of spending time on the crocheting, I could be using that time to do more impactful and useful things. Like I could be cleaning up more, or doing more laundry, or finding more fun dishes to make. I'm Polish and predominantly cook Polish food. He's never been very on board with that. In my honest opinion, these are things that couples either sort out or they don't. Reading enough r/relationship advice has given me enough misplaced confidence to say that this may even be a bunch of red flags he's putting up on full display for you, OP. Instead of recognizing the problems and pulling his weight around the house, he's attacking you for your harmless hobby and saying you don't do enough around the house. You're also apparently jealous he can work from home and your food is boring, so you should make more food he can enjoy. These don't sound like the hallmarks of a healthy relationship, and whilst this is only a glimpse into the home life and dynamic you two have with each other, I can't imagine the reality is all too happy if you're coming here for advice on this one. I genuinely would start to plan an exit strategy if you can't look at yourself in the mirror and say this is something you're able to overcome with this man, and you'd be happy bringing up these issues with him and solving it as a team. This sounds to me like a very imbalanced relationship, OP, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Jessica Jones 2 says, not the a-hole. He has a lot more free time than you, but barely gets any household chores done, spends more time on his hobby, and criticizes you for having something you enjoy that helps you cope with anxiety? Tell me, OP, why are you with him? We've been together for a long time. He was my first boyfriend when I moved here to the UK from Poland. He let me stay with him when I needed a place. I'm generally happy in this relationship. I don't at all mind the cooking and cleaning, as I'm used to it. But there's just a few things that we disagree on, and this is one of them clearly. Not sure why my comment is being disliked, apologies if I said something wrong. He should not be cursing you out, ever. Seriously, that's a huge red flag, OP. Don't ignore that, please. I've seen too many friends and family deal with crap like this. It just makes my blood boil. Not the a-hole, by the way. OP should tell him to go kick rocks and to live her best life as a happy hooker. He took you in because you fill the roles of maid, sex toy, and punching bag without complaints. You were happy because you've normalized just how badly he mistreats you. Adding for visibility, boyfriend is 31 and OP is 23, and you've been together for years. He's an adult and pursued a teenager precisely for your naivety and lack of experience. A teenager in a foreign country completely reliant on him, the ideal target for an emotionally and verbally abusive person. Honestly, this is how it sounds to me. OP is not the a-hole, but really needs to evaluate the situation and decide where to go from here. I agree. She's not the a-hole, and he sounds like a real piece of work. I hate the constant dump him OP posts, but this one calls for some serious re-examination on her part. She sounds like a great woman, and deserves to be treated so much better. There's someone out there that will cook and clean with you, and then hang your amazing crochet work on the walls because he loves it so much. This is one of those situations where I'd love to see OP move on and find that great guy. Equal labor is a pretty basic expectation in 2021. Sincerely, a guy who cooks, cleans, works, raises our kids, and loves all of my wife's hobbies, even the ones with funny-looking results. He's probably just worried because we all know crocheting is a gateway craft. You think you're gonna make a blanket or two, and then it's a doily for every surface and a cover for every appliance and tissue box. It's all fun and games until you both end up in head-to-toe crocheted matching outfits. It's a slippery slope from hobby to addiction, not the a-hole. That made me laugh, it's true. My ex used to not let me knit around him because he said he hated the noise of the metal needles. So I got wooden needles. Then he said that actually, he just hated me knitting because I wasn't paying attention to him. Lots of the time, he was watching his game as we only had one TV. It was a symptom of a much, much smaller issue. His incurable arsehattery. Rethink being with someone who doesn't like seeing you happy. And iDrow1 says, "Holy smokes, throw the whole boyfriend away. He's gone bad." Anyone who told me I should be doing chores while he plays video games would be out on his ass so fast, he'd think he was magicked out of there. Why would you put up with someone like that? Not the a-hole. Posted by user RightJack77, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to stop using the word family on me like it's supposed to mean something?" As stated in a prior post, I was kicked out at 15 for being gay. From 15 to 35, I had no contact with my family. Over the years, they have somehow managed to work their way back into my life, only in a small capacity. My sister, who was younger than me, called earlier and asked what me and my husband were doing for Thanksgiving. I told her that it was just us and that we were just going to have a nice dinner and probably watch TV for the night, and go to bed early. She told me that she was having dinner and that we need to show up. I told her thank you, but this was the first set of holidays in 10 years that I didn't have to host, and I was planning on staying home and just putting on a fresh pair of pajamas after a shower and not going anywhere. She then asked about Christmas, and I told her the same thing. She then asked when it would be a good time to get together, and I told her point blank I wasn't at all interested given our history, and that I was perfectly happy with how things were at this point. This was when she got pissed off and started to yell at me, saying that I need to start acting more a part of a family, and that I need to let go of the past. She told me that we as a family need to try and bridge the gap and move forward in a positive way. I told her no we don't, we hardly know each other. We are very much strangers. I also told her that she needs to stop throwing the word family around like it's supposed to mean something to me. When we started to talk again, when I was 35, when our dad died, her and my brother constantly berated me and told me that I just need to let them deal with everything that needed to be done. I never disagreed with them. I told them that they could handle it. I was berated when our mother was sick for not visiting her in the hospital or when she was home. I really don't have much of a relationship with my mum, and she's a pretty good stranger as well, so it didn't really matter. I threw everything back in her face. Before we hung up, she reminded me that it wasn't my husband's blood that runs through my body, and blood is thicker than water. I told her no, my husband's blood did not in fact run through my body, but his semen did, and that was close enough. I thought my husband was going to wet his pants. So am I the a-hole for telling my sister to stop using the word family like it means something? Oh my god, that is a burn and a half right there. Good on you, OP, for standing up and having the balls to throw your husband's balls in her face, and probably your own too. Genuinely really liked that line, that was funny, and it caught me off guard. Judging the entire backstory you've provided here, I can safely say that my ball is indeed in your court. Giggity. You were treated terribly by your entire family on the basis of your fascination for the opposite sex and nothing else. Like, I do wonder if they would have the same hang-ups about you if you were to be with a woman, but we'll never know that, it would seem. This whole blood is thicker than water is a load of baloney most of the time, and as is repeated here all too often, you guys, family is what you make it, and I agree with that sentiment. These people may be related, but it's clear you don't view them as family. Like, I agree with you then that she should stop using it like it means something, since you've clearly made your position and feelings known. And for that, I've got to say not the a-hole. I'm genuinely surprised you haven't gone no contact, but the world is full of surprises these days, isn't it? Now in the comments, Sunlit Fable says, not the a-hole. I feel like it would interest her to know the real saying, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Bonds formed by choice run deeper than those by relation. Edit to add, this is apparently not actually the true saying. My apologies for the misinformation. Thank you for the commenters who let me know that I was wrong. And yeah, this guy is just clearing that up, saying, that's not like the real version of the quote, FYI. The original quote is the one we're all used to, with the meaning that blood relationships are more important than other ones. The Blood of the Covenant version was just made up a couple years ago, seemingly out of nowhere. Much better meaning, of course, but it isn't the real saying at all. Neither is that one, technically. There isn't any definitive timeline about which saying predates the other, so ultimately they are both correct and incorrect. Welcome to Schrodinger's phrase. Well, okay, there's never definitive proof that a phrase didn't exist before a certain time, but we have the phrase blood is thicker than water documented from at least the 1700s in writing, with the meaning that familial ties supersede other relationships, or possibly distance, like familial ties persist even across bodies of water, that is, across the ocean or whatever, while the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb was not written down anywhere until a couple of years ago. Gallagherin says, not the a-hole. The last paragraph made me bust out laughing. No, you're not the a-hole. She lost the ability to call you family when she abandoned you with the rest of them. Literally laughing out loud at that last paragraph. You're not the a-hole. Enjoy your pajama Thanksgiving. Frankly, it's the best way to spend the holidays. You and your sailor husband. What? OP said he was a seaman. Oh, welcome to my House of Misfit Toys holiday table any old time. And Adilla Bean says, not the a-hole. I hate when people use family to manipulate people into doing what they want. Family means nothing without the actions to back it up. Kicking a kid out at 15 is pretty unforgivable if you ask me, so you owe them literally nothing. Well done for standing up for yourself, and I'm howling at your final line. So good. And OP adds an edit to the post. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you're all having a great day. First, I wanted to say thank you all for your responses, awards, and everything else in between. This has been completely insane. I never thought this would go so far. I've tried to read every single response, but there are so many that it'll take hours to get through them all. I wanted to do this edit to fill in some blanks, so to speak. When I was kicked out, I was 15 and my sister was 8. So she did not have anything to do with what happened. But she had every opportunity to find me after a certain point. When she was 16 and had her own car, she could have come found me. When she was 18 and on her own, she could have come to find me. She never did. When our dad died, it was a friend of mine who talked me into going so that I could maybe find some kind of peace with what happened all those years ago. She and another friend went with. My husband, boyfriend at the time, had to work and couldn't get the time off. Initially, I was greeted with surprise and thank you for coming, but then with hostility from my sister and my brother. If they for a minute thought I was out to get something from them or our dad's estate, they were wrong. I wanted nothing, and to this day, I still don't. My siblings have always told me what my place in the family is, which is basically, I'm window dressing. I have been told that I have no business in knowing anything about the family finances, family affairs, or anything. I think that they're afraid that I could potentially take something that they want or are supposed to get. A couple of weeks ago, my mum asked me to read over some financial paperwork that she didn't understand. Reluctantly, I agreed, but once my sister found out, she screamed at me for putting my nose into areas that I don't belong. I told my mum not to ask me for anything again because I will not be involved. I've been asked a few times why I do keep in contact with them. The answer is because it's my way of keeping ahead of them. I do not voluntarily make contact with them. I have no reason to. I keep my Facebook locked down to the point that I don't show my city, my job, my phone number, nothing. But I can see all of their stuff. This works because they post a lot, and if I see that they're having problems with whatever the case may be, then I can work to make sure that if they ask for something, I can not answer or just ignore them altogether. Plus, it does give an open avenue for communication in the event of a major emergency. Plus, maybe I still hold on to a hope that they will maybe at some point in time actually apologize, but I don't see that ever being the case. I have been asked if my mum has ever apologized. No, she has not, and she never will. She's from a generation where parents don't apologize to their kids because that would mean they did something wrong. She's from a generation where kids were to be seen and not heard. I guess it comes down to this. My family has formed this dynamic that I will never be a part of or want to be a part of, and I'm okay with that. I was not asked to come to Thanksgiving or Christmas. I was told that I will be there. Why? I don't know. Then when I declined twice, things got ugly. Thank you all for your replies and support. And now on to the update. We had such a great day, just C and I. We had steaks on the grill, baked potatoes, steamed veggies, and a from-scratch pumpkin cheesecake. Tuesday and Wednesday, my mum and sister were tag-teaming my messenger all day, and until I reached my limit and finally answered my sister. She told me when they were planning on eating and that I needed to arrive earlier. I told her point blank that I was not coming to dinner. Out of my own curiosity, I felt like something was wrong, and I asked her why it was so important for me to come. They've been telling some family members that I was going to be at dinner and that everything was okay and that I was part of the family again. This is important because many people from both my mum and dad's family have had nothing to do with me, but they never completely approved of what my parents did to me. This was my breaking point. This put me over the edge, and I told them I was not going to cover for them, and that this was the end of all of it. It was their fault for creating this issue, and they will need to deal with it on their own. I told her that I was done and that to never contact me again. I ended the call and immediately blocked all communication. The level of anger that I have towards them is to a point I can't even describe it, but at the same time I feel relief that they gave me a reason to terminate all communication with them. They are completely on their own. True to form, on Thanksgiving Day, C and I took showers and put on clean pajamas and watched movies all day, and then ate dinner. And then back in front of the TV. Before I end this, I wanted to thank all of you for your support and encouragement and kind words. Here's to a great holiday season. Ascensley says, not the a-hole. OP, holidays are a time for your family and your husband is your family. I'm happy for you that you finally cut off the toxic drama for good. Just because you share blood doesn't mean anything. Your family are the ones who show you love and support. Happy holidays and best of luck. Lunaliner321 says, I've recently cut off contact with all of my step-siblings. My stepsister, her husband, and my stepbrother's wife were friends on my Facebook. My stepbrother would never add me. They didn't talk to me or anything unless something bad happened. One day I got tired of it. I deleted all 3 of them, and it really felt amazing. I know they were only there to see what I was up to. They never talked to me when they were at my daughter's birthday parties. It was something that was long overdue, but it happened, and I'm so glad for that because it set me free. I knew the truth, it was just hard to accept it. Getting that taken care of felt great for me. I'm sure it felt good for you as well. Family isn't just people who have the same blood as you. I'm glad you and C had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope you both have a great Christmas as well. Posted by user ThrowRA British Mum. Titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my brother? Throw away for privacy reasons. Apologies in advance for any spelling and grammatical errors. I, 25 female, have been with my boyfriend, 30 male, for 8 months. I have a 9-year-old son. Yes, I know it sounds bad. I still get a lot of crap for it. I divorced my ex-husband last year, and I've happily moved on. Fast forward in the new year of 2020. I met my boyfriend, and he's been everything a girl could ever ask for. He's sweet, attentive to my wants and needs, and is an amazing father figure to my son. I introduced him to my family, and while they've initially had their reservations, they gradually accepted him with open arms. I'm the youngest of 4, with 3 older brothers, 36, 34, and 31, and the only girl. Unfortunately, we hit a rough patch 4 months ago. I found out I was pregnant, but suffered a miscarriage. I'll admit I was an emotional wreck and utterly depressed. We grieved together, went through online therapy, and we managed to cope. Boyfriend has been my rock every step of the way, and took on more responsibilities at home to lessen the burden. He even bought me a promise ring and told me he loved me and would never leave me despite my faults. Last month, my boyfriend was diagnosed with depression and has been seeing a therapist. He's been feeling emotionally drained, and since then, I've limited the number of chores he does, ask him to do yoga with me along with other family activities with my son, and remind him to take his meds on time. He grumbles a bit, but complies. I love my boyfriend, and I do see myself having a future with him. I just want him to feel better. Here's where the conflict began. With restrictions slowly easing, my parents and brothers started visiting us. After a long, exhausting day of cleaning the house and doing the laundry, I was in the kitchen cooking dinner. Everything was going great until my 3rd older brother made a remark to my boyfriend at how I do more chores than he did and said aloud whether I was a personal maid, and boyfriend should contribute more as it's not fair for a single mum to do everything around the house while her man lazes about like her deadbeat ex. I yelled at my brother that my boyfriend does not laze about, and if he really did compare him to my ex, then he was being horrible. He said he didn't mean it. My son asked to be excused and left the dining room. Boyfriend followed suit. I told my brother if he wasn't going to apologize, then he should leave. He eventually did. I called Mum that I was going to limit contact with my brother, and my boyfriend did tell me that while he did appreciate me standing up for him, he said I should have at least told him why first. Now I felt bad because I shouldn't have cut the visit short and might have caused a rift in my family. I don't know what to do. My parents and brothers have sided with me, but other relatives are divided. Am I the a-hole? Oh, and a little FYI. I'm British, boyfriend is American. My family moved to the US when I was 12. To me, it doesn't sound at all like your brother didn't mean what he said. Honestly, that was a cheap shot that came out of nowhere, and if it's true that your boyfriend doesn't do any of those things that your brother spouted off, then I support you here, OP. Limiting contact is an acceptable thing to do in my opinion. He was in fact being horrible, and he refused to apologize. Even leaving the house instead of doing so, like, he's not sorry at all for what he said. He just wants to die on this hill, and I think you should let him. Ever the cringe comment, but you don't owe him, nor your parents or other relatives, a thing in this situation. If this situation, of all situations you find yourself in, causes a genuine rift in your family, then perhaps there's deeper trouble under the surface that you're not telling us about. Also, like, I don't know how your edit at the end of you being British and him being American changes anything here in this context, but thank you for telling me though, I guess. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. And in the comments, Gallows Jack says, there's a lot to unpack here. However, not the a-hole. It sounds like your brother was a jerk. He should have pulled you aside to ask what was going on, rather than make the comment in front of your boyfriend. What kind of constructive ending did he think he was going to get with that? And OP replies, What saddens me is that normally he wasn't always like this when we were little. I'm still trying to understand why he said what he said to us that day. I mean, were there any hints of narcissism I didn't notice? I wouldn't try to diagnose him from that. My guess is that you already had a jerk once, and now the new guy was behaving jerk-like, which may explain why you reacted so strongly when his character was questioned. He probably thought he was being a good brother, but he didn't put enough brain into it. And OP replies again, I have no doubt that he thought his heart was in the right place. There was only so much I could fit in the post. Anything else, I'll try to answer or elaborate in the comments as best I can. Unsightly Fuzz says, not the a-hole. You couldn't explain the backstory to your brother without revealing your boyfriend's depression status, which violates his privacy. Yelling might have been over the top, but let's face it, you were between a rock and a hard place. Cinnamon Girl says, not the a-hole. It seems that if your brother was genuinely concerned about the division of labor, he should talk to you alone. A public ambush never helps. In my honest opinion, if a person is in current treatment for depression and not in crisis, there is no reason for them to do less housekeeping chores. Structure is good for treatment. But insulting both of you in front of your son is not okay. Your brother accomplished zero with his tactics. He is your brother, and it seems that you could hash this out before you limit contacts. OP replies, I'll bring this up next time once things have cooled down. And To The Garbage 2 says, your brother sounds like an a-hole for bringing it up the way he did. If he had legitimate concerns about the relationship dynamic, there are way more constructive ways to do it. Your brother created an incendiary environment, and stuff got a little nuts. Make sure you're not being the a-hole with this line in the sand. Thank you for your input. I'll try my best to make myself clearer next time. And now to the update. So a lot has happened over the past month, and let me tell you, I wasn't expecting what had happened afterwards, so I'll recap what followed. Turns out, my brother saw my Reddit post and called me asking to speak to him. At first I didn't want to, but he's my older brother, and I agreed to at least hear him out. When I arrived at his apartment, he looked like an emotional wreck. He profusely apologized for the way he acted and has said he read some of the comments over and over, and slowly came to realize he said it the wrong way. He only wanted what he thought was best and begged me to not go no contact before hugging me. He said he'd never meant to put me in a tricky situation and swore he never knew my boyfriend was depressed until he saw the original post. To me, it felt like the older brother I've known since I was a little girl had come back. In a rush, we embraced more and reconciled. Yes, my family is a tight-knit bunch. Mum, Dad, and my other two brothers were pleased that we managed to patch things up, which was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. As for my boyfriend, he's been showing some improvement and promised to pick up the slack some more regarding household chores so I wouldn't be stuck dealing with it. My son still doesn't like to talk about that day, but I'm sure he'll grow past it. We're looking for any available counseling sessions in our area to get our lives back on track before moving on to the next step, one step at a time. On Saturday the 17th of October, that was the day my world changed. My boyfriend called me over to the nearest beach by sunset and surprised me with the most beautiful ring I've ever seen. He got down on one knee, and the bloody fool literally proposed to me. I was not expecting that, but the setting was so perfect and I do love him dearly, so I said yes. We made it official in a Zoom call the following week, and my family was over the moon, sending us congratulatory messages and wondering if and when the wedding preparations would begin. I invited all my brothers to help, to which they'd be more than happy to help with. All in all, I'd say we ended things on a good note. Me and my brother have reconciled, and my boyfriend is now my fiancé. Thank you guys for your feedback, and for helping us grow closer than we were before. And in the comments, Baby Cakelings asks, This is great, but I hope you're not just going to pretend with your son this all never happened. OP replies, "Oh no, I'll have a little heart-to-heart and see how he's doing. We'll plan on seeking counselling and set up a support structure first before moving to the next phase. Although we're happy, my little boy remains top priority." Yeah, we're all concerned because in 2 whole posts, you've included 2 sentences about how your son is experiencing all of this. You focus and write a lot about the new boyfriend. In the original post, you say, "So just got up and left." In this one, son still doesn't talk about that day, but I'm hoping he'll just grow out of it. Holy crap. Someone else asks, "Info. How does your son feel about this?" He's gotten better once we slowly explained what happened. I still worry about how this will all affect him in the long term. Okay, good. It sounded like you were shoving it under the rug. However, I meant, how does he feel about you marrying someone else? It's kind of fast for getting a new stepfather. He's on the fence a bit, and he opens up about his potential stepdad 1 step at a time once he's comfortable enough. So far, they've been getting along well. My son knows he still remains my top priority. Okay, good. Good luck with everything. And Free for Laugh Felon says, "Happy for you, but please be diligent about your birth control. You already got pregnant as a teen and got pregnant again to a man you have not yet known a year. There's nothing wrong with taking things slow. After my miscarriage, I thought it would be best if I go on birth control until we were at our best. As for the engagement, it'll be long term, not a quick one, so we have more time to assess our strengths and weaknesses. Plus, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're in no rush." Posted by user Throwaway Takeout 2020, titled, "Am I the a-hole for eating takeout while stepdad had a heart attack?" Last night I got off work late, so I ordered food. I'm staying with my mum and stepdad for a few months. I never knew him that well, as I grew up with my bio dad from age 6 when my parents split. I visited my mum every other summer, and we've always been on friendly terms, but never super close until I moved to their city for work. I'm staying until I can find a place to rent myself. Shortly before my takeout arrived, my stepdad collapsed. My mum called me for help, and of course, I helped. We called an ambulance and gave him first aid together until the paramedics took over. They got a pulse and transferred him to the ambulance. They lost the pulse in the ambulance and couldn't take him to the hospital until they got it back. The woman explained this to us before shutting the doors. Around this point, my takeout arrived. I paid and explained what was happening as the delivery guy was obviously kinda freaked out by the ambulance outside where he was dropping off food. I took the food inside and came back out to check on my mum. She was waiting outside the ambulance and wasn't allowed in while they were working on my stepdad. I stayed with her for about 5 minutes and then suggested we go wait inside as it was cold. She said no, she would wait outside. I said to call me if she needed me and went inside. I had already ordered the food, it was there and going cold. I had not eaten in hours, so I just decided to eat while I waited. Mum came inside and found me eating and told me it was selfish of me to be eating when a family member was dying. I stopped eating as it was clearly upsetting her. Stepdad is alive today. He had a heart attack, but his chances look good. I'm genuinely glad he's okay. This morning, Mum told me she can't believe how cold and callous I am, and she thinks I hate her and my stepdad and blame them for my parents' divorce. I don't hate either. I didn't think me eating takeout while we waited was a cold thing, but it seems to have really upset her. I don't care about the divorce anymore either. For context, the whole incident from calling the ambulance to the ambulance leaving took an hour and 15 minutes. Food arrived halfway through all of this and there was nothing I could have done to help. Personally, I think her blaming you for her divorce was a big ol' reach in this situation. You were so young, there's no way you could be directly responsible. That's a heartless thing to say, and I'm not so sure I can excuse her for it, even with the grief she's going through in that moment, not knowing whether her partner lives or dies. That in and of itself is an a-hole thing to say. You didn't think eating takeout while you waited was a cold thing to do, but you know her better than us, so I can't particularly make a judgment call on her. I'd say in general, it wouldn't be the end of the world, nor an a-hole thing to do. There was nothing you could have done better for sure, but perhaps waiting on the food would have been better in this situation. But then again, everyone's different. This situation is a difficult one for anyone to be going through at any time, but ultimately I don't think you're an a-hole for eating. Eating is a comforting thing for many people and a reaction to stressful situations to escape them. Her escape just so happens to be blaming you for her divorce. Weird one, that one. Not the a-hole, OP. Now in the comments, KM89 says, "No a-holes here, I think." This is a tough one because everyone's kind of wrong and nobody is at the same time. Your actions were kind of uncaring, sure, but you're not required to care. She's taking it out on you, but then she was just confronted with the idea that you'd rather eat than be there with her to support her. But then you're really not required to if you don't care. It's weird, but I think maybe the way you were eating might decide this. If you sat down to a nice meal while your father was dying in the background, sure, you're the a-hole. If you scarfed some food while you could because you hadn't eaten in hours and were trying to stay out of the way, not the a-hole. Everyone handles emergencies differently, and staying out of the way was at least better than getting in it. And OP replies, "Yeah, I work 12-hour shifts and I'd been awake about 16 hours when this all happened. I've been sleep deprived lately in general, and the adrenaline does sort of weird things to you. Giving someone CPR is also actually pretty tiring, not to sound cold, but yeah. I didn't even really think about it. I just went inside and saw the food and figured it was sitting there anyway, so I may as well wait it out and eat. I can see why it might look bad, but I wasn't trying to be a dick. It just didn't occur to me that it would be a bad thing to do at that point. It just seemed like all I could do, I had done." No a-holes here, OP. I don't know why people think that there's a uniform response to stress. For some, the response is simply to carry on. Some people may have the intuitive feeling that staying with the mother is the correct thing to do, but you did ask, she said no, and so you left, telling her that she could find you if she needed you. Everyone commenting that you're an a-hole is also forgetting that eating is actually a natural thing to do when some people are stressed. You don't know when your next meal could be in a bad situation, and it could be that you'd need energy for a long night comforting your mother if the worst did happen. Maybe it's cold or callous. Maybe. Maybe you'd make a great surgeon. I work in a hospital, and operating theaters in the ER room are full of people who can lose a patient and wander off to munch a burger and watch TV and read the paper. It's not necessarily a bad thing to maintain a detachment when dealing with life or death. If these people lose their appetite every time someone nearly died, then they would be dead. Of course, surgeons don't tend to know the people they operate on, but you barely know your stepdad. Might be a different story if it were your mum. Who knows? My grandparents nearly lost their son, my uncle, while my dad couldn't stomach food for weeks. They soldiered on eating, staying alive. They cared. Of course they cared. They haven't been the same since, but they knew that it does no good to neglect yourself, especially when you're going to have to be strong for other people. I get that your mum may think it's weird, but she can't dictate which of your behaviors during stress signify that you care and the amount. Just try to bear in mind that she is probably lashing out because she nearly lost her husband. She's probably freaked out and doesn't understand your behavior. Try to ignore the lashing out, and please try your best to be there for her as much as you can. She may realize that you do care about her, and by extension, your stepdad, but you didn't display it in the way she expects. Show her now. Tell her that you're sorry for upsetting her, and ask how you can rectify the situation. Also, from your responses, You don't think that you may be on the autistic spectrum. I am and always have been called uncaring when I often care a lot, but often didn't know how exactly I was supposed to act. You took your mum's response that she didn't want company literally, which I gather most people in this thread seem to infer means that she did want company. You might just need to be told explicitly what people want from you. Stay with me. Don't go in and eat just yet, please. Just something to think about if you haven't already. And OP replies, "Thanks, I appreciate the reply. It's one of those situations no one knows how they'll react unless they're in it. So it's weird to me to see so many people acting like I've done something evil just because I'm not absolutely torn up about a guy I hardly know. I'm glad he's okay, and I was worried for him, but like, what more could be done at that stage? No, I'm definitely not autistic. I have no issues that would lead me to think I am. I do understand emotion, and I can take a hint based on body language, and her body language was telling me she didn't want me there. I'm 100% sure of that." Lucy Van Pelt says, "No a-holes here. Your mother was and is stressing. You were not stressing, but even if you were, some people stress eat, others lash out. Yeah, it was more like I just was on autopilot. Really, the adrenaline had worn out and I was hungry and not thinking about how it might look. Sucks all round, to be honest." And OP puts an edit in the post saying, "Edit. So I don't have to keep making the same point. I waited outside with her for 30 minutes. Food arrived, I took it inside and immediately went back outside. The adrenaline had worn off by then, and I noticed it was cold, so I asked if she wanted to go inside after 5 minutes. She said no. I then went inside after waiting with her 35 minutes total. There was nothing we could do but wait, and she had been standing away from me when we were waiting. I asked her a few times if she was okay or needed anything. She said no. She usually deals with stress by being alone and usually asks for some space. She's not upset I didn't continue to wait with her, and that's not what I'm asking about. She's upset that I was able to eat food whilst this was all going on. I know her, and the hints I was getting from her body language was that I wasn't helping by hovering around her anyway. Whilst I'm happy that my stepdad is alive and I have no harsh feelings to him, I don't know him that well. I was concerned for him, but I don't know him well enough to truly panic. I saw him every other year for a few weeks of my life, and I've known him this time for a few months. Nice guy, glad he's okay, but I can't force myself to love him like family. When I went inside, I was cold, tired from a 12-hour shift and performing CPR, and I hadn't eaten in a few hours. I was on autopilot as the adrenaline had worn off. Perhaps it was insensitive of me, but I thought I had done all I could at that point. Again, my mum is not upset I went inside. She's upset I ate as she thinks I don't care about my stepdad. I do care, but not to the extent she would like. That is the issue, not whether I left her outside. I also did all I could in terms of CPR, talking to the paramedics and offering her my support verbally. Someone suggested I should have driven her to the hospital. We were waiting outside the ambulance and I don't drive. I'm also 18 and here on an apprenticeship program, so there are limits to what I can offer to do for her practically. My apprenticeship involves manual work, which is doubly exhausting. Right now we're on lockdown, so I'm the only one working in our household, and I think she forgets how tiring shift work is, as she hasn't done it for months. We're also in the UK, and I think Americans have some strange idea about what you do in a crisis. She would have killed me if I'd started calling all her friends to come over mid-heart attack. We also deal with things in a bit more of a repressed way, so we don't do the whole sobbing and hugging thing Americans seem to think should be going on. And now on to the update. Thankfully, we're expecting my stepdad to make a full recovery. He was able to call me from hospital. We've never really had a deep conversation, or even a very long one, so it was a little awkward, but he thanked me for helping, and we've developed mutual respect for each other. I'm genuinely glad he's okay, and he seems to appreciate what I did. It was a pretty emotional chat, and I'm glad we spoke. I started having some distressing dreams about the incident. Spoke with my doctor, who said it's normal, as it was a traumatic thing to witness. Said I should go back if it doesn't improve, but thankfully, it seems to be getting better in the last few days. I've cleared up the big debate over my mum. We talked a lot. She confirmed she wasn't upset that I went inside. She actually wanted me to go away so she could be alone with her thoughts for a bit. She only came inside as she thought I was upset and trying to hide it by going inside. She said she realized she hadn't checked up on me throughout the wait and felt guilty when she realized. When she came inside and she saw that she'd read the situation wrong, she was just overwhelmed. She said in that moment she felt a lot of guilt for not trying to foster a better relationship between me and my stepdad. It hit her that we really weren't that close, and she was upset at the thought that it might be too late to fix that. When she feels guilt or in the wrong, she explained she tends to lash out as a defense mechanism, which is something I didn't really know about her, but it explains a lot. She also explained again that my stepdad had never wanted kids, but didn't have a problem with me. He just felt awkward as they both assumed I resented them for essentially breaking up my family as I knew it. I've reassured my mum it doesn't bother me, and there is no resentment. Hopefully, we can all be a bit less awkward with each other. I acknowledge that I should have waited to eat now. I can see how it looked insensitive, but fortunately, no one's upset, and my stepdad found it funny when I mentioned it. He said he would probably have done the same, and then asked what I ordered. He said it was good scran, so I think no one's too upset. This incident has put things into perspective, and hopefully I can develop a better relationship with my stepdad when he's well enough. I think that would mean a lot to my mum, and he seems like a sound bloke. Also gonna work on better communication with my mum. Thanks to those who reassured me in the comments and privately. Really helped me process things once the shock started wearing off, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that. In the comments, Swedish Punch says, I acknowledge that I should have waited to eat now. Don't beat yourself up about this. It's probably how you dealt with the shock. I once read a story about a woman who came upon a horrific crime scene that left a baby uninjured. She calmly tended to the child while waiting for the authorities, not the a-hole. We do weird things in those situations. At one point on 9/11, me and a dorm mate looked at each other, turned off the TV, and grabbed our hated physics homework. Just couldn't handle it anymore, and that was the response. I absolutely do not think it was weird to get food in such a situation. A person who witnesses a shocking event and feels he or she may be needed a bit later with full strength in order to help others automatically feels that he or she has to get prepared. If OP did not have some food for some hours before, it was the most healthy instinct to eat, and drink and go to the toilet, etc. before the minute comes when OP is needed. Maybe it was not conscious by OP, but it was an absolutely healthy and positive reaction to that situation when the outcome was completely unforeseeable. And OP replies, Thanks. I've been reading a bit about shock and things online, and generally, it seems like a pretty normal reaction just from the other anecdotal evidence. At the time, some people in the comments kicked off so hard, I thought I might have done something really messed up without understanding why, just because I don't have a lot of life experience, I think. I can see how it might have looked bad, but it's a relief to hear others have done the same. I was thinking I might be a sociopath without even realizing the way some people went on, but I think it's pretty reasonable now. So many of these family stories come down to X was upset about something completely different than what she said to OP at the time. Glad this gave you a chance to talk and clear the air. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the time, people are just crap at communicating. I'm glad it got sorted. Glad it's worked out okay. What food did you get? Because I imagined it was moussaka when I read OP and update, but I'm sure that's wrong. Thanks, mate. Nah, jalfrezi, rice, and a Peshwari naan. It's pretty good. Threw the sides out though. It always comes with chips and they're a bit worse off by the time I got inside. Can never get through the lot. This is a great update, and I think you and your family are going to come out on the other side of this much closer. This was some top-notch communicating, and I'm a sucker for a happy ending where all people are acting like adults that respect each other. I hope your stepdad makes a full recovery. Thanks, I hope so. I'm glad no one ended up upset by the whole thing. Posted by user Tistan1, titled, My 22 female, boyfriend, 23 males, friend, seems to be perfect for him, and it's driving me insane. My boyfriend and I have been dating for about 6 months now. Our relationship with each other is amazing, and I can honestly say I haven't felt this way about anyone I've previously dated. A bit about him. He's sort of an introvert in that while he's definitely social, he doesn't talk too much, and when he does, it's still very restrained, as in, well past. He is this way with everyone, except one friend of his. I had sort of met her before because my best friend is a mutual friend of ours. My boyfriend and I actually met through my best friend. My boyfriend knows her because she has been his close friend for almost 5 years now. Apparently, they were neighbors in their university dorm, and they also had the same program. My boyfriend and her seem to share a kind of connection that I honestly can't say I do with him. He talks so much when she's present. His whole demeanor changes. The wildest I've seen him smile has been when she's present. If there's a bunch of us in a room, the two of them will have these shared references and inside jokes. A couple months back, my boyfriend had fractured his foot and was bedridden for the most part. She came to give him food literally every day. You could actually see his face brighten when he learned she would come. I sometimes feel that if you take away the sexual aspect of my relationship with him, it might not hold up against what he has with her. She broke up with her boyfriend a few months back too, and it's gotten to the point where I'm actively trying to set her up with someone. The worst part about this is that she's likable. She's attractive. She has this dorky sort of humor that my boyfriend loves. The food she was making for him was amazing. My boyfriend is into science documentaries, and I'm not, so we've never really watched them. She doesn't seem that into it either, but she watched it with him, kept asking him stuff, and he was so enthusiastic in his explanations. I've now started doing stuff he wants just to emulate that. What prompted me into coming here happened this weekend. She had come over, and my boyfriend wanted ice cream, so we went to a nearby creamery. The two of them were done with their orders because they already knew what they wanted, which, incidentally, happened to be the same flavor. Ugh. While I like taking my time testing stuff. There was an old lady with what seemed like her granddaughter who noticed that they had the same flavors and said, "You two look great together." My boyfriend corrected her, but God did that hurt. I just don't know what to do. Are they even doing anything wrong? What do I even complain to him about? Am I in over my head here? And in the comments, Alyssa X says, I feel that some comments are really inconsiderate to the OP because if you'd place yourself in the shoes of the OP, I'm certain many would comment differently. I will not lie and say that I would have flares of insecurity as well if that would be my boyfriend. I can imagine seeing the inside banter between them that would make it seem like there's chemistry in the air. However, this could very well be something only your mind would focus on, while both your boyfriend and this female friend don't think of anything but having a good, friendly time, especially due to the amount of time they'd known each other. If you really are uncomfortable with the situation, just bring it up in a calm manner with your boyfriend. It's okay to ask reassurance sometimes. Doesn't mean you're sabotaging the relationship. Communication is key. Agree with this, but also, coming over every day with food when he just had a foot injury? That's pretty unusual. And I would not have been okay with another woman coming over every day with food. This feels like something worth having a boundary over. Same. I've made meals for friends who have been grieving or who have recently given birth. I didn't go every day. I made enough of one thing to last for a few meals and told them to let me know if they needed more help, or I'd order them delivery a couple times spread over a few weeks. This includes friends who live within a minute walk and people I saw at work every day. Homemade food every day? I don't even do that for myself or my husband, because I make enough for leftovers. I'd be weirded out if somebody did that for my significant other. I'd feel insecure if I was in your position too. I think you just have to talk to him about how this makes you feel, or it's always going to drive you crazy. It doesn't sound like you suspect them of doing anything, so start by telling him that you believe he would never cheat on you and you're not accusing him of anything. But sometimes their interactions make you feel uncomfortable. From your perspective, bringing him food every day while he was injured is something that a spouse or partner would do. Also tell him you notice that out of all of his friends, he only replies to her texts. Hopefully he understands where you're coming from. Make sure you're clear that you don't want to stop their friendship because you feel like she's your friend too, but you'd appreciate it if he was more aware about how this makes you feel because their friendship makes you feel like a third wheel. Good luck and keep us posted. And OP asks, thanks. Asking in this manner wouldn't come across as jealous, right? It's okay to feel a little jealous too. People assume that jealousy is the end-all to all relationships, but at the end of the day, it's just an emotion, one which can be navigated as well. Maybe you could imply that you're envious of the close relationship they have, and you would love to share more of his interests so that you could feel like a part of it too. Also, it's natural to be a little jealous here. As long as you don't cross any boundaries in their friendship and communicate openly, there's nothing wrong with feeling this way either. Thank you for saying this. Jealousy is almost never the actual issue in a relationship, at least from my experience. It's the lack of communication and lack of trust that destroys the relationship, jealousy being the catalyst. And now on to the update. Thank you for the advice in the original post. I had decided not to bring it up with my boyfriends. Some comments had made the compelling point that they hadn't really done anything wrong, and I was letting my insecurities ruin a relationship. I didn't want to ruin what has been an amazing relationship just because I felt my mind run amok. Since then, I'd entered the relationship with a positive mindset. We spent all day yesterday together, doing stuff that each of us wanted to do. Today, I thought we would try out a new Chinese place, which is near where he works. He's on work from home again. After the advice I'd received, I thought that new shared experiences is what would create the connection I wanted between the two of us. He told me that yeah, it is good. He had tried it with her a few weeks ago, before the second lockdown had started, during lunch. They both work in the downtown area, and I guess they're close enough to meet up for lunch. I know it's a small thing, and going for lunch together with a friend is whatever, but it was just the fact that this was another shared experience lost that just got to me. I opened up to him about how I felt like an outsider when him and his friend were together, about how I couldn't relate to the stuff they talked about and all that. He was incredibly comforting. He apologized and said that he didn't realize it, that he should have figured that that would be the case, and he's going to make sure that I don't feel that way. This is where I screwed up. I think I let my insecurities get the better of me here, and I got greedy. I told him about how I felt that she was doing stuff that I should be doing as his girlfriend, that his relationship with her made me feel like a third wheel, and that sometimes I felt some boundaries were being crossed inadvertently. He said he was sorry about that, but she's a very important person in my life. We've been through a lot together in the last 5 years. He asked me why they couldn't be close as friends, and what was wrong with her trying to help him out during a tough time, referring to the daily food stuff. I didn't have an answer to that. What he was saying just made sense. I told him that I wanted our relationship to mature further, that I felt I wasn't getting to be that important person in his life. He apologized and said he would make sure that I didn't feel that way, that it was his fault, but she shouldn't be punished for our mistakes. At this point, I started to cry for some reason. I can't explain it. Him putting himself at fault for everything is the last thing I wanted. He seemed so distraught during all of it, and I hate what this convo did to him. I'm so ashamed that I let my insecurities hurt us like this. He kept comforting me. We've said we're good, but there just seems to be this feeling in the air that I hate. I don't know if I just screwed it up, but I'm going to make sure it's not irreversible and not let my insecurities get the better of me. Now in the comments, Zilla Beth says, "It's a good thing that you were open and honest about it though. Stop feeling bad and thinking you messed up. Otherwise, this would have eaten away at you for so long, you could have ended up being resentful in the big picture. I don't think you're wrong for feeling the way you feel in any way. I would not be comfortable with the situation either, because it's really not normal, and I know a lot of other people would agree. I don't really have much advice except that I feel bad for you that you're going through this and you keep beating yourself up over it. There's a real problem in your relationship and you keep directing it back at yourself, saying the things about you being the one that is screwing up and your insecurities are the problem and you feeling like you have to fix things, when you should be exploring things together as a team. I can't help but wonder if after the conversation, your boyfriend feels this much anguish over the direction of the relationship and wondering how to move forward. I'm sorry you're going through this. If his friendship is a deal breaker for OP, then that's fine. It's not necessarily the fact that it's with another woman. It's because she feels left out and neglected. Honestly, given what OP said in the last post, I would feel that way as well. It seems like they don't have many boundaries, and I would be very uncomfortable seeing that my boyfriend is happier in the presence of someone else. Of course, OP can't force him to do anything that he doesn't want to, which she isn't trying to do, so she shouldn't feel guilty. But if she's uncomfortable, then I think she should just leave. I also think that OP's boyfriend is guilt-tripping her slightly. In what way is OP at fault? She has valid reasons to feel the way she feels. What part of this is her mistake as well? It's the boyfriend's for not setting any boundaries in his relationships. It honestly sounds to me like he's apologizing to make OP think that he's taking accountability and he's going to change. But from the post, it seems as if he has a rebuttal to every apology he's made. I'm sorry, but isn't an apology. You did the right thing, showing your true feelings and vulnerability, including bursting into tears. Vulnerability is strength, you're amazing, and I'm proud of you, OP. And OP says, thank you so much. Just want to jump in here to further emphasize what other posts have said. You're not wrong for feeling the way you do. We all have our own boundaries, and sure, some people from your old post may feel like your boyfriend and his friend aren't crossing a boundary, but that's for them. They aren't the ones in the relationship, you are. With that said, OP, you can then see if there's something you and your boyfriend can agree on. If it were me, I'd think about what my hard boundaries are and why they are a boundary for me. That way I can explain to my boyfriend clearly what I want out of all of this. You obviously care about his long-term relationship with his friend, so make it clear to him that you don't want to get in the way of his friendship, but you also want to be comfortable in your own relationship with him. Lastly, it seems to me that he doesn't really understand how his friendship with her is causing you discomfort, so this may be something you'll have to revisit. To me, it's clear that you see his friends doing things or filling in roles in his life which you're supposed to have. If that's the case, then explain that. He asked you questions you couldn't answer, so perhaps next time you talk, if you choose to have another talk with him, which I advise considering how you're feeling, think on these things deeply beforehand so that you can give him answers. Good luck and hugs to you. I've been through a similar situation, so I know these are hard to deal with. I mostly agree with you. The thing is, if OP doesn't want or isn't interested in doing certain things, or filling in roles in her boyfriend's life, she shouldn't do that as an obligation, nor expect her boyfriend not to do that with his friend, unless it crosses clear boundaries of intimate affection. In my opinion, that is. Based off what Opie has said though, she is interested in filling those roles in his life, and that what she's witnessed from their relationship has breached some boundaries already. It's just that now, she thinks it's all just in her head, since other folks don't seem to be bothered by it. Posted by user ThrowRAJ123, titled, I'm 40 male, in love with an escort, 25 female. 8 years ago, my wife passed away, and I had a difficult time coping. Eventually, I tried online dating, but that went nowhere. I started seeing an escort, and she was amazing. We really connected on an emotional as well as a physical level. I've seen her at least once a week for the past 5 years. I feel like we've grown close over this time, and she's opened up to me as well. She told me her real name, I've been to her actual condo, she's told me her reasons for becoming an escort. We talk about her family, and I've even taken her on vacation several times. We text daily, we've talked about her school and her career, and this is what is messing me up. I feel a strong connection, but I also realize it's her job, and I'm paying her. The problem for me is that she's now done school and is ready to move back home to begin her career and quit being an escort. She told me all this during Christmas. She bought me a PlayStation 5 for Christmas. What the hell? She said that it was a thank you for being a great client all these years, and she said she's gonna miss me. She said that even though I was a client, I made her feel special. She said she's gonna miss venting to me and appreciated me always listening to her. She said she's planning on making the move this spring. I'm mentally preparing for it, but I don't know if I can handle it. I think I'm in love with her. I want to tell her this. I want to tell her I love her and she means everything to me. I really think she has feelings too, but I don't know. Maybe she's really good at her job. It's probably a long shot, but I'd love to be in a real relationship with her. Hell, I'd even relocate with her. Should I tell her I love her? I'm 40 with no kids. I don't have a lot of close friends. All I have is my career. What do I have to lose? I don't know. Then again, if this is all just a part of her job as an escort, I don't want to make her feel awkward. In the comments, Ham Chicky says, r/ask an escort. Ask the ladies in the biz. I think you'll get more qualified answers for the situation. Kira T NYC replies, Hi, former sex worker here. As awkward as it can be, I think because in this case she's moving back home, you might as well be honest with her. But personally, I don't think I'd want a client to straight up tell me they were in love. I'd phrase it more as, I realize you're very special to me, and if you're interested as well, I'd love to try dating for real, or something along those lines. Just be very prepared for the possibility of rejection. Escorts and sex workers are very, very good at making people, especially good clients, feel appreciated. And her actions, like the PS5, could be literally just that. I've heard stories of girls falling in love with clients, and as rare as it is, it's not impossible. I wish you the best, OP. I completely agree with this comment as a fellow sex worker and escort. Our lives and work revolve around making people feel liked and cared for, and while I understand it can be hard to differentiate what's work and what's real emotion, as a customer, it is very important to keep in mind that this is work for us, and presumably her as well. But do tell her. She's moving after all, but put in a much better way than I'm in love with you and want a future with you. You're in love with the person she is at work when she is with you. Yes, she's been open with you, and I'm sure genuinely likes you as a person, feels that you are safe and trustworthy, etc. But you can't fully know her because it's her job to be likable to you, and you see her regularly enough that she counts on having a good rapport with you. You don't have an equal exchange going on here. You don't have access to her genuine personality in its entirety. I think you should look inward and try to parse apart how much of your feelings for her are based in the fact that the relationship is inherently free of conflict and the more painful and confusing aspects of dating. Please don't take any of this as me trying to be unkind or diminish your feelings. It's understandable how you feel, and I have zero judgment. If it would make you feel more free, you should tell her your feelings, sure, but to me it sounds like she's trying to move forward with her life outside of this line of work, which is a boundary you must prepare yourself to respect. I came here to say this. The person you're in love with is a persona. Not to say she isn't a genuinely wonderful person, but you don't know her. As a sex worker, let me tell you, the person you think you know and love is the person she's pretending to be when she's with you. This is a good response, one you should listen to and take to heart. Even if she, in her work life, is close to how she is in her real life, it's not the same. You feel love and affection because she's done the hard work for you by making herself more palatable to you. And now on to the update. So I told her how I felt. We had another amazing time this weekend. We were cuddling in bed and looking at potential homes for her when she moves back. She seemed very excited about her future. At this point, I wasn't going to say anything. She seemed so excited about her future that I didn't want to ruin the moment. As we're about to fall asleep, she said that she's going to miss this. I asked her to explain, and she said she's going to miss snuggling with me, miss my massages, hair play, and chatting and hanging out in bed. So then I told her. I told her how amazing a person she was, and how I was excited for her future too. I said that she positioned herself to get everything she wanted out of life. I thanked her for everything she has done and how important she had been to me over the years. I said I have developed deep feelings for her and asked if we can see each other once she retires. I asked her if I can take her out on a real date afterwards. Her response, I care about you too, but let's not complicate things right now and enjoy our remaining time together. She fell asleep shortly thereafter while I was up all night with my heart breaking. The next morning, I apologized for making things weird. She said it's fine, and she understands, and not to worry about it. She seemed to be taking this all so calmly and casually, like it didn't affect her at all. Meanwhile, I'm dying inside. Before I left, she recommended a friend of hers who's an escort that I can see once she retires. Ouch. This was Sunday. For the next few days it was weird. Usually we text all the time and she'd send me cute pics and stuff, but there was barely any communication. Then I receive an email. She tells me that I've been an important part of her life too, and that I've helped her grow throughout the years. She says that she has feelings too, but are unsure of what exactly they are. Somewhere along the way, the lines were blurred, and she said it was her fault for letting that happen. She doesn't want to explore those feelings because she has to move on with her life. She says it will never work because there are so many obstacles to overcome, mainly the fact that she will be living across the country. She said she's open to being friends, but isn't even sure about that, as it might complicate things. She suggested that we take a break from seeing each other for a while. I replied and apologized again for making things weird. I told her that she was special, and I will support her whatever she wants to do. Well, I am absolutely destroyed. I mean, I knew this probably wasn't going to end well, but I don't know how I'm going to get over this heartbreak. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. What am I going to do now? No one wants to be with a broken down 40-year-old man. For her, I'm happy she's starting a new life. She will be successful in her new career, get married, start a family. I was delusional to think that it could have been with me. I want to thank everyone for the kind words and support. As for the ones with the negative comments or who have attacked me in my DMs, it doesn't matter to me. Nothing that you can say can make me feel any worse than I already do. Maybe it's time for some professional help, or I should just go see that other escort. In the comments, Eleanor3 says, the outcome was expected. If I was you, I'd think very hard about continuing to use escort services, unless you want your past to repeat itself and find yourself in the same position again after several more years. You obviously need something more than just sex with a woman. Using escort services is for people who want and need sexual gratification only, not for people who need something more. I'm a year older than you, and I can tell you that 40 isn't old. You have plenty of time to date and meet people. This is spot on. Escort aside, this woman is 25 and not age appropriate for OP. He mistakenly thinks that just because a 25-year-old doesn't want a relationship with him, nobody else does. Most 25-year-old women don't want to date 40-year-old men, period. That doesn't mean 40-year-olds are somehow broken or undateable, because there are plenty of people his age who would be far more suited to him. I think unless he gets therapy, he shouldn't date at all. Because right now, no real woman is ever going to live up to his fantasy that he built up in his head. He'll be looking back through rose-tinted glasses at the woman he paid to be his perfect fantasy. Young, caring, never fought, always made it about his feelings. A woman who isn't paid to hide their reality and feelings would gain nothing from a relationship where they are competing with his false memories. I really hope OP gets help. 5 years is a long time to invest in something that was never real, and I bet he still has a lot of grief that he's been avoiding working through. Maybe he thinks 40-year-olds are old and broken, and he doesn't want one, and is realizing most younger people don't want older people, and is bummed. I think we have a winner. She's very young, and you are very likely in different stages of life. I'm sorry that things didn't work out, but you should continue to seek love in friendships, family, and romantically. I wish you all the best and hope you find someone to connect with. And Tibet says, I always make it a point to tell anyone who hires escorts that it isn't real. Not in the sense that the escort isn't a real person with real feelings, but not real in the sense that it's pleasure for the client, you, and work for the escort. It can be super difficult to abide by this when the both of you vibe so well and have a great time together, but that doesn't change the fact that the two different realities of the arrangement do exist. I truly do feel for you though. It's not like it was a 1 or 2 time thing. This went on for a pretty long time. I think it would do you some good to relax, spend some time with friends or family, maybe pick up a hobby, and maybe consider seeing a therapist regarding all of the feelings you're having within yourself. You have to listen to her and let go. She's letting you down easy. Don't read too much into what she's saying. There isn't anything to read into. These women are paid professionals, and of course it's normal to fall in love with them. She did her job well, but you will find someone else to fall in love with. What you can take from this is comfort knowing that these feelings can exist with someone else who will be there 100% for you. You've learned what you like in a woman. Now go out and find a partner. G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys, sorry I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.